Hello again, and welcome back to this episode of Can I Just Say? I want to start off with the cosmic updates. Nothing too big to report this week, except Pisces season is starting today. So Pisces season is from February 18th through March 19th. Pisces is a water sign, and it is our final sign in the zodiac wheel. So the zodiac wheel starts with Aries and ends with Pisces. That's why you will see a lot of us don't celebrate the new year with the Gregorian calendar on January 1st, but on the first day of Aries season instead, which is on the March equinox, aka the first day of spring. So I'm a Virgo, and Pisces is my sister sign, so it's opposite me on the zodiac wheel. Where Virgo is logical, Pisces is intuitive. Pisces is one of the most emotional signs in the zodiac, and it teaches us how to dream big, trust the process, attract more by doing less, very intuitive, very listen to your gut, go with the flow. You are exactly where you need to be right now. This is the final resting phase before Aries season brings those actionable steps for us to take to achieve all the things. So something else that I thought could be interesting is to incorporate something else I enjoy, which is tarot. I really enjoy reading tarot cards, and I thought that I could, on occasion, do tarot readings at the beginning of the podcast. And for today, I thought it'd be interesting to see what the energy for Pisces season would be for us. So the card that I pulled is the Three of Pentacles. The Three of Pentacles is all about achieving success, reaching your goals, but remembering that it's not just about what you do on your own, it's about collaboration. So it's about recognizing that there are people around you who are extremely talented, who have diverse viewpoints, who have lots of experience and expertise that can help you to achieve all of your goals. We don't have to do this alone. And it's perfect for today's podcast. And a perfect segue, because today's podcast is called The Power of Solitude. So in this episode, we are going to dive into the power of solitude. Solitude is intentionally choosing to be away from other people in society, not out of any sort of isolation or rejection, but as a way to reconnect with yourself. It's such a weird concept for so many because society tends to equate being alone with loneliness and depression. But solitude is not about lacking connection, it's about deepening the one you have with yourself. There's a lot of fear around being alone, and I think part of the reason being that a lot of people associate it with emptiness. But in reality, solitude is about reconnecting with your creative side and finding motivation and inspiration for your desires and personal growth. Choosing solitude intentionally is a great way to discover yourself and recharge mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. Typically, those who choose solitude don't feel isolated or lonely, for the most part. We are all still human, so there are times we might feel lonely. But they choose short periods of solitude to recharge, whereas loneliness has no real beginning or end. Personally, I believe loneliness is much harder to come out of than solitude is, and I love my solitude. I love keeping to myself, minding my own business, and being blissfully unaware of what is going on across the world. Now, that's not to say that I don't care about the travesties that are happening. We are humans, we're empathetic creatures, but we are not meant to hold feelings for every terrible thing to happen to every person on the planet ever. We all need a break from the constant noise of life. So, solitude is choosing to be alone to reflect and find peace. Whereas loneliness is feeling disconnected, even when you're surrounded by people. Now, both hold stigmas around them. People who enjoy solitude tend to be looked at as selfish or antisocial. They're often labeled as strange or unfriendly. There's a large belief that constant socialization equates to happiness, while solitude is seen as a dysfunction. And this is so untrue because spending time alone is vital for personal growth. Now, on the other hand, people who admit to feeling lonely or isolated tend to have feelings of being weak or undesirable. A lot of times we don't admit to feeling lonely because we don't want to be judged based on a common human experience that a lot of us have felt at least once in our lives. None of us want to be viewed as weak, and we don't want the pity from others to be included for the sake of trying to help us not feel so lonely. These interactions don't feel pure and tend to make us feel even more isolated. And I have an example of this. So when I lived in the UK, I had a lot of trouble initially making friends. I was very young, like 22 when we first moved there, and a lot of the wives that I was meeting were older or had kids, so I had trouble finding anything in common with them. We ended up being invited into this little group of friends, and it was great. We all got along and celebrated the big holidays together, and we would celebrate anytime the guys' schedules lined up for us all to hang out together. The couple who invited us into the group moved, and all of a sudden, we weren't being invited to the group parties. I felt so discarded. I confronted what everyone viewed as the quote-unquote planner of the group, and she invited me to their next girls' dinner date. The whole time, I felt like a fifth wheel. No one directly talked to me or replied to me when I chimed in during the conversation, and I felt even more isolated sitting there having dinner with them than having not been invited at all. So after mentioning this to her the next day, she finally told me that they all unanimously decided we were not actually friends. We were just included because of a mutual friend that we had that moved. It took me quite a while to make friends after that. I didn't want to be discarded or to feel lonely when surrounded by people who were saying they were my friends. There's a lot of societal pressure to try to stay socially engaged. You know the saying, it takes a village. But at what cost are you willing to do so? If you spend time with a friend who constantly gossips about other people, you do recognize they gossip about you to someone else too, right? This is why I prefer solitude. My peace is my most valuable commodity. I do not ascribe to anything that challenges that anymore. Do I get periods of loneliness? Of course. I'm a human being. We're all social creatures, but we don't have to be social constantly. And being social all the time does not make you more valuable. There's a beautiful quote from Robin Williams that I love that says, "I used to think that the worst thing in life was to end up alone. It's not. The worst thing in life is to end up with people who make you feel alone." We are constantly overwhelmed by noise and clutter. We have our big screens on while we stare at our little screens. We take a little break from the computer screen to check our phone screen for notifications and reply to texts or to something someone said on social media. I found myself in this position too, where I would have one of my favorite TV shows on in the background for background noise while I went about my day at home. I recognized it was to help me not feel so alone. It helped me to stop overthinking by losing myself in some other story that was not my own story. But then I recognized that I was becoming so disassociated that what started as background noise became reasons to just finish this one episode before I got to my to-do list. That turned into wasting the day away, and I felt so disconnected from my body and from my soul. I even began to notice where I was feeling disconnected in my relationships as well. So I decided to take a silent day where I completely disconnected from all stimuli. I told my trusted people I was going on Do Not Disturb and set out to have no phone, no laptop, no tablet, no TV, no reading, no hobbies, nothing. I allowed myself to do basic tasks to survive, like eat and shower, things like that. And I could do things that helped me feel more connected to my body, like going for a walk or practicing yoga and meditation. It really did force me to be with myself. I wasn't constantly focused on other people, what other people were doing, how I can help them. I'm a Virgo. I'm of service to others. I'm always constantly looking for ways to help people. But this was my selfish, quote unquote, selfish way of putting myself first, taking the time that I needed to reconnect with myself and really have to sit with myself. I am fortunate that I was able to create this space to recharge and connect with myself. Since then, I rarely watch anything on TV, and my time on social media has drastically reduced. It really did help me feel more grounded and connected to life again. So, this is an example of solitude. Now, you don't need an entire day or week to disconnect and recharge. I understand that I'm fortunate I've got the time and space to do it. But you can do this yourself and you can start small. So something like setting a limit for yourself of no screen after 10 p.m. or no screen before 8 a.m. is a great place to start. This will also help you to create time and energy boundaries for those night owl friends who, like myself, get some of their best ideas after midnight. Going for a walk is another great option for solitude, especially if you are the type of person who is working up to being alone with yourself while dealing with the feelings of loneliness. You can try going for a walk in a busier park near you so that you're near people, but you are also going about your business as they go about theirs too. That can help show you that even in solitude, there's no fear of loneliness. There are billions of people around us going about their daily lives the same way that we are. Regardless of what way you choose to practice solitude, and I highly recommend, if you're serious about this, that you try different things to see what works best for you. But really reconnect with yourself and your core beliefs, what builds the foundation of your being, and simply reconnect with your soul again. Becoming more present with yourself can help reduce stress and regulate your nervous system and your emotions. The less we overload our minds and our feelings with all the things happening outside of us, the more we're able to self-reflect and become more independent. The addiction to our screens is a type of codependency and attachment that a lot of us struggle with, me included, but it's one that, like any other addiction, can be addressed and redirected. The dopamine we get from our screens is temporary. That's why it's so addicting to keep checking your phone. It's easy to get lost in the swiping of reels on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube Shorts, getting those little 30-second dopamine hits of cute animals or funny memes or things like that. You get little dopamine hits each time your phone dings. But there are much better ways to get steady streams of dopamine that can help you detox from needing to be socially connected all the time. Exercise, sunlight, healthy sleep habits and routine, engaging in your hobbies, breath work and meditation. These are all different ways to get healthier levels of dopamine that are more sustainable and less likely to drop off and leave you feeling exhausted and like you're on an emotional roller coaster. If you do set off to begin practicing solitude, be mindful of unintentional isolation as well. It's easy to get to the point where you are so used to being alone in your own little bubble, doing your own little thing, that you start interacting less with your friends and stop going out to do things that aren't simply out of necessity. I can say I find myself doing this sometimes. I'm naturally more introverted, and it costs money to go outside. All the things that I love are at home, so why would I want to leave? But recognizing that that can lead further into depression because I'm not getting sunlight or fresh air, and I'm not interacting with people in meaningful ways. But it's also important to be careful when you start to reintegrate into socially again. So throwing yourself back into socializing by going to a child's birthday party after spending the past month alone is probably not the best way to reintroduce yourself into society. It's so important to have friends that understand your need for an easy, carefree interaction. Ones who you can go for coffee with who will understand if you need to leave because it's overwhelming. Or, if you don't have a friend like that, ease yourself into somewhere you know isn't typically busy, or somewhere like a park where there's space to move around and breathe. You can start even smaller by having a friend you check in with once a week, just to see how each other's doing. The point is to do what feels comfortable for you, but to recognize when you're getting too comfortable being alone. When you really give yourself the chance to be alone and quiet your mind, it helps you to see what habits you've formed that haven't been the healthiest, and to then create some healthier ones for yourself. You get the opportunity to create a routine that's easy to follow and gives you some structure in life. Motivation doesn't just show up. We have to start in a direction, and then the motivation begins to show up with us. Small, easy steps are better than not starting at all. So here are 5 effortless goals to create structure while spending time alone. Number 1 is morning mindfulness. So spend 5 to 10 minutes as soon as you wake up, before you even look at your phone, to quietly reflect, do some deep breathing, check in with how you're feeling before you start your day. Number 2 is daily learning. So spend 15 to 30 minutes a day, minimum, reading, listening to a podcast, or watching some sort of educational video on YouTube or somewhere similar to that stimulates your mind. You can try finding videos on hobbies that you have or ones you would like to start. Learn more about something. Number 3, creative expression. Now, devote as much time to this as you possibly can, whatever feels right, for as long as it feels right. What makes you feel creative? Do you like to doodle or draw? Do you enjoy writing poetry or short stories? Song lyrics, maybe? Do you play an instrument? Do you enjoy dancing or singing? Whatever it is, tap into what makes you feel creative and start creating. Your intention here is to create. There's no goal, no outcome, no end product. Just begin creating. Number 4 is movement in nature. Spend at least 20 minutes a day doing some sort of movement. Exercise is a natural dopamine booster. It can be tough to get started, but once you're doing it, you'll feel better. Do what feels good for your body. And please, please step outside. Just stand there if you have to. Spend time in nature, especially time alone with yourself. And finally, number 5, evening reflection. This is similar to morning reflection, spending 5 to 10 minutes checking in with yourself. At the end of the day, check in with your thoughts, your wins, or things that you're grateful for from the day. This will help you to see how much good happened throughout your day and where you were able to find motivation to follow your routines. I do enjoy my solitude now. I'm working toward creating healthier routines for myself, but I really do enjoy the freedom it gives me. And while I understand that not all of us can have the same amount of solitude we need or want, make sure that you are making yourself a priority and create time to practice moments of solitude for yourself. Quiet your mind and tap into that well of energy, wisdom, and love that you have, and do things that help refill that every day. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Let me know your thoughts and if you have any ideas for future topics. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you next week.